This episode of the Dirtbag Diaries is brought to you by Patagonia, makers of high-quality clothing and gear for outdoor sports, world travel, and daily lives lived in harmony with nature. Visit them on the web at patagonia.com.
The Alaska Range. It's the continent's last great wilderness. It stretches all the way from the Canadian border into the heart of the northern interior. Comprised of dozens of smaller subranges, this string of ice-covered mountains runs for 650 miles and is home to some of the most intimidating peaks in the world. Denali, Mount Foraker, Mount Hunter. It's an endless maze of glaciers, peaks, tundra, and brush. In 1996, photographer John Burcham and his close friends Kevin Armstrong, Jeff Arpners, and Doug Woody hatched an incredible plan. They would walk the entire range, from the small town of Talk all the way to Lake Clark, 700 miles to the southwest. They would cross only 2 roads. In mileage, it's about the equivalent of walking from Los Angeles to the Oregon border, maybe, or from New York to Chicago. There are no trails. This region is plagued by chronically bad weather and mosquitoes. This is no walk in the park, and it had never been done. They spent their winter and spring planning and organizing, and that summer they quit their jobs in Denali National Park, established a series of caches, and started walking. Here's John, or as his friends call him, Burcham.
We were trying to find the line of least resistance, being, as close to the mountains as we can, and going over passes, following glaciers, just skirting the whole range, following the spine, but without being on the spine. The thing is, there's just 2 different styles, that fast and light, or kind of, we call it slow and dumb. We just want to be out. We wanted to be out there, and experience it. So we definitely could have shed some pounds.
It was a testament to the power of teamwork. Together they laughed, argued, swore, and eventually persevered. When they forded the raging glacial torrents, they stood side by side, clasped arms, and pulled one another towards the safety of shore. Together they gathered their voices into a commanding yell to chase away inquisitive grizzlies. Tied to one another, they crossed glaciers riddled with gaping crevasses. They floated rivers in tiny inflatable rafts.
It's just, every day had a new challenge. Something would come up, something would happen that you could never expect. Something would look different on the maps, and you have to go one way or the other, or food would run low, or rafts would pop. There was always something every day.
For 75 days, they put one foot in front of the other and egged each other on. But the delays mounted. Sickness, a freak windstorm that pinned them down for 3 days, a broken camera. By the middle of August, the team was 2 weeks behind schedule. Burcham had a problem. His little sister was about to get married, and he had promised to be there. He had told his family that he would be there, and he had to decide now. Continue on and miss his little sister's wedding, or he could turn around right now and head for a remote hunting lodge on the very edge of Denali National Park, where he could catch a flight out.
No big deal. I'll just go back. I've done solo trips in Alaska. It was no big deal, to do that. So that's what I thought.
Burcham offered to carry some of the extra gear they wouldn't need for the final 2 weeks. They hugged each other goodbye, and the crew started walking towards Lake Clark. Burcham turned and headed for the small valley they had just come from.
I just still so clearly remember those 3 guys going off and me going, and I was like, this is different. This isn't a solo trip. This is different, And
Why do we explore? Why would anyone put themselves in the midst of an endless wilderness, expose themselves to such risk? Ultimately, these wilds lead to a deeper place. The irony is that we travel across the world to discover and understand what exists inside of us. Our minds and hearts come with their own geography, their own sets of peaks and valleys, and they can also come with their own sets of dangers. Crevasses, hungry wildlife, hypothermia, they can all kill you, but only loneliness can drive you crazy. This week, we bring you No Big Deal, photos and stories from John Burcham. I'm Fitz Cahal, and you're listening to the Dirtbag Diaries.